Welcome back to episode 2 of Etched in Stone, Stories of Appalachia. I am Lakota Speakman, and joining me tonight is People's Monument Company owner Chris Brown. And tonight's guest is Mr. Steve Thompson.
Dakota.
So welcome.
Chris.
So thank you for coming to sit with us tonight. We're, just so you're prepared, we're just going to talk about your childhood, your family, your professional career, and growing up in this community. And then we also have a new segment tonight where Mr. Thompson can share with us a special memento from his life, but we'll get to that later. But I did want to start with just some icebreaker questions, and these ones I don't think you know yet. So if you could immediately master any skill, what would it be?
Oh, my goodness. Never thought about that. That's a good question. I guess any skill. I've always wanted to be a wannabe cowboy, so I guess maybe if I could become a professional horse trainer, that would be great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Oh, it'd have to be a filet mignon.
Oh, good choice. And
it'd have to be medium rare, too.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Any sides or just the steak?
No, yeah.
Good with that. And then what is on your music playlist?
Talk radio.
Okay.
I haven't listened to music since probably high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just kind of after high school, and now it's just strictly talk radio. So.
Okay.
So, Steve, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Chris.
And I want to say thank you for supporting us, me as a new owner, and making the transition from Steve Ryan, the previous. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here tonight, is mainly to say thank you and for having the confidence on us.
Well, I appreciate it, Chris. And, of course, know your family, go way back. And then, of course, Steve and Don and Malin. Matter of fact, Malin Hooper, who I believe, Malin was one of the founders. I did read some history on People's Monument here not too long ago, and I guess Malin was one of 4 possibly that had started this business. So I know you're probably at least a century old.
Yeah, 1922, and the original building was down by the railroad tracks on Sugar Street. And I believe there may have been a general store in the front and monuments in the back of it.
Well, it's like any business. We always, hope for a continuation, and it's exciting to see that Steve has got a new young person to take over, and I know from what I've seen so far, Chris, you're going to do very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I feel young at heart, but my hairline's 74. So
I think that's hereditary in your case.
It is, absolutely. I also just want to say thank you to Dakota for being here. She's helping us out with the podcast, of course, and right before we started, we talked about coming into the new age and digitalizing records, and we have records here since 1950s at least, and so she's going through methodically and scanning those and getting us up to speed so we can research things more effectively. And she's also helping us out with our social media. We have some new pages on Spotify, TikTok, and of course our Facebook page has been going well here for the last year or two.
We also now have Instagram too.
And Instagram, yes.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, it's amazing how times have changed, and especially just in the last 5 years or so. It's just been. It's been amazing in my business, and I know the same way with yours as well. And we have to change. So if we don't, we're going to be left behind, but that's exciting. Yeah, being in business, it's exciting. So.
And then just to give everyone a little background of yourself, I have your bio from your website. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read this.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So you were born in June are born on June 25th, 1953 in West Union.
Yes.
And you are the son of Ronald A. Thompson of Grove City and Maxine Wallace
Kratzer.
of Hillsboro. You were raised on a farm in Locust Grove and attended Franklin High School in Locust Grove through the 9th grade, when Locust Grove, Sinking Springs, and Peebles all merged. And you graduated from Peebles High School in 71.
Yes.
While in high school, you worked for Charlie Thompson, who owned the Treff's Funeral Home in Peebles. Where was that? I don't know that I've heard of that one.
It's where the funeral home is today.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
And then after graduation, you attended the Tri-County Academic Center in Macon, Ohio, and received your associate's degree. While attending college, you worked for the Ellis Funeral Home in West Union. Upon graduation from Tri-County, you attended Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science, where you graduated in 74. And then you returned to West Union to serve your apprenticeship under the guidance of Edmund Ellis. In 77, you moved to Columbus, Ohio, and worked for the Shedinger Funeral Homes for 2 years. And at that time, being raised in the country life was calling you back home. So you returned to Locust Grove, and a short time later went to work for a good friend, Don Eddington, who owned and operated the Rhodes Eddington Funeral Home in Hillsboro, Winchester, and Morristown. And while working for Don, you met Susan L. Davis on a blind date on Election Day in November of 1980. And you and Susan were united in marriage on July 11th, 1981. And Susan is the daughter of Judge Richard L. and Catherine Toll Davis of Hillsboro. Steve and Susan have 2 daughters, Allison Thompson and Andrea Thompson. You own and operate Thomas Funeral Homes and Cremation Care in Hillsboro and Sinking Springs, and you are a partner with the Wallace Thompson Funeral Homes in Peebles, Seaman, and Winchester, and the Thompson Meeker Funeral in West Union. You also served as a director of the First Star National Bank, FKA Farmers and Traders National Bank, and U.S. Bank in Hillsboro. Steve and Susan own and operate the Masterpiece Farms, where they breed and raise quarter horses. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very nice. You were also a member and a past president of the National Snaffle Bit Association and a member of the American Quarter House Association and the Horse, not House. American Quarter Horse Association and the Ohio Quarter Horse Association. You are also a member and a past master Highland Lodge, number 38, F and AM. Am I saying that right?
That's a Masonic Lodge.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
And then Hillsboro, chapter number 40, RAM. Hillsboro Council, number 16, RSM. Highland Commandery, number 31, Knights Templar. Is that right?
Templar.
And the Scottish Rite Bodies of the Valley of Cincinnati. Aladdin Shriners of Columbus. The FOE, is it ARI?
Yes.
1161 of Hillsboro, and you are the past chair of the Highland County Chamber of Commerce.
Correct.
Very impressive. You're a member of a lot of things.
Well,
Member.
I always felt that you had to give back to the community, so I've tried to do my share, and it's been very rewarding, I'll have to say. So.
Good. So we're going to go ahead and just get started with your childhood. So can you tell us about your parents and their background?
Yeah. My dad, he was born and raised in Sinking Spring, and Dad was one of 7 kids of Earl and Ruth Thompson. My grandfather Thompson was postmaster there in Sinking Spring, where it used to be the Masonic building. It's right there on the corner, and then my dad, he worked for Robert Shaw in Hillsboro, and then they built a new plant in Grove City, so that's how he ended up moving to Grove City. My dad and mom divorced. Now, my mom was Maxine Wallace, and her parents were Guy and Grace that lived in Locust Grove. And Mom and Dad got a divorce when I was young, and then she remarried when I was about 13 to Bert Kratzer. Hence her name Kratzer. And Bert was a great guy. He it's a shame that he had never been married until he and Mom got married, and he should have had a house full of kids. He was a great guy and loved kids. Kids loved him, and so I was fortunate to have him as my stepdad. But then I was born and raised right on the corner of where the Dairy Queen is, there in Locust Grove, and Mom run the little store. It's no longer there now. First Stop. They built a new First Stop there. But Mom had the store there when I was growing up as well. And so I spent my first 18 years there at the corner at Locust Grove. My Mom had a brother, Bob Wallace, and hence Wallace Thompson Funeral Home. So Bob had a son, and I was the only child. And so Bobby and I were always more like brothers and cousins. So, and then Bobby, after I got into the business, he decided he went to embalming school as well. And then come back and worked for me in Hillsboro. And I told him at the time, I said, if ever have an opportunity to buy another funeral home, I'll take you into partners. And so that's how Bobby ended up. And then we bought, there's a Lafferty Funeral Home here. We bought in 1991. And then in 1996, we bought the old Treff's Funeral Home. And then Treff's was started, I think, about the same time, probably Peebles Monument, because I think it goes back to around 1900. Cecil Treff's started the funeral home, and then Charlie Thompson had bought it, and I had the fortunate that Charlie, that's how I got started in the business, and Charlie was a great guy. He, big old tender heart, and I just never forget, Charlie told me one thing, and of course Charlie had to depend on someone. At the time when I helped him, he was paralyzed his whole left side. And so he had to depend on somebody to help him. And so I got a lot of great experience when I was in high school, thanks to Charlie. But Charlie told me one time, and I've thought about this, and actually anybody can, it's great advice for anybody or whatever you do, but of course, being a young kid, 16, and helping Charlie, I really probably didn't know too much. But Charlie told me, he said, Steve, he said, I just got one piece of advice for you. He said, if you ever get in a situation you don't know what to do, he said, now, granted, 99% of the people at a funeral don't really know what's the proper technique anyway. So he said, whatever you do, he said, you just do it with authority. Like, this is the only way it's done. And he said, you'll get along great. And, I think about that every now and then. I'll get in that situation, and I think about Charlie. But I said, when you stop and think about that, you can use any situation you're in, whatever you're doing. So that is probably one of the best advice I think somebody ever gave me. So, but I kind of got off topic there.
That's
But
okay.
anyway, and like I said, I could sit here and talk all night. So
That's
we might
fine.
be here this time tomorrow. So
Well, you said you lived down there. Were you on a farm?
well,
Or did you grow up on a farm?
yeah. My grandparents, they had like around 100 acres there around the store, and then we had 30 acres behind. Bobby lived across the street in a big farmhouse, and then I lived in the house right beside the dairy bar. And then we had 30 acres there behind. And then my uncle, when I was growing up, he had bought a farm out on Straight Creek. So he had about 200 acres that he farmed. So my first probably 15 years, I helped on the farm with Bobby's dad and Bobby. And so it was a great life. And that's how I kind of got into horses. When I was in school, I showed steers at the county fair. I was in FFA as well. And so I always thought that someday that I would have a farm and I'd breed and raise purebred cattle. Well, as it turned out, I had 2 daughters, and when my oldest daughter turned 10, she got into 4-H. And my wife had a client that her family showed quarter horses, and they was part of the 4-H club in Hillsboro. And so they had what they called a horseless project for kids in town. So our daughter joined 4-H, and so we thought, well, this will be a 1-year thing, and then she fell in love with the horses. And the next thing we knew, we ended up buying her a horse. And then our younger daughter, she got interested, and we bought her a horse. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm going to buy mares because this will be a fluke. The kids won't stay with it. And so I bought mares, and then turn around, I started breeding. They would show, and I started breeding horses. And then the kids got out of it, and Sue and I, we've just had a passion for it, and we just love. I mean, we've traveled all over the United States, and we still breed and raise, and we keep a couple show horses, and we've had a lot of fun. We've made a lot of great friends all over the country, and so. Thanks to our kids, and now our kids is out of it, and Sue and I we're bigger than ever, and we've really tried to raise really good quality horses, and we've been very lucky. We've had a lot of luck with it. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
We'd mentioned earlier in your bio about Sinking Springs and Peebles and Locust Grove all consolidating.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Can you talk a little bit about your time at Franklin, and then also that transition period and how that was? I know it was probably a little disconcerting for a lot of kids then, and kind of the changeover there.
Yeah. Chris, I said it was always funny. And back at that time, every little community in our high school, and it was basketball, which I think it still is in Peebles. And I guess it probably always will be. But back at that time, that was the entertainment and rivalries. Oh my goodness! Franklin or Locust Grove and Peebles. Oh, it was a big rivalry, and of course, every town in Adams County had a basketball team, and so it was just really a big rivalry. And I'll never forget when they was talking about consolidating. Oh, they just thought the kids, oh my gosh, how can kids Sinking Springs and Peebles? There'll just be all kind of problems. And I look back now, it's kind of funny. My lands, I just met a bunch of new friends when we come to Peebles, and and I think it was more the parents than it was the kids. You know, you look back because, oh my, there was rivalries back in the days. I mean, Locust Grove, their gymnasium, I mean, you couldn't get, every time they played a basketball game, you couldn't even get near, I mean, it was packed.
And they had a tile floor, which was unusual.
Oh, they did. And in the wintertime, it'd get hot in the gym, and that floor would get sweating, and they'd talcum powder. Oh my gosh, they would just have to put talcum powder like crazy. And I'll never forget. I always thought that was a big gym, and when I come to Peebles, I'll never forget the first time I stepped out on the gymnasium at Peebles, and I said, I look back now, and I guess probably I thought of it like now if I'd step in St. John Arena. You know, I just walked in Peebles, and I was amazed. It was like, oh, my goodness. And, of course, now the gym's not even there.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my dad telling me at one point, because he moved there, I think his junior year, moved to Peebles.
He did, yeah.
School, and he said the hardest thing to get used to was playing on a wooden backboard at Sinking Springs versus the glass backboard at Peebles. And
it was.
You had to make adjustments for it. So,
and that clear backboard, you know, with that rim there, yeah, and then like you said, with the solid, I know Locust Grove, they was the same way. They had this, and it was a big adjustment. You know? So,
Did you like school? Like, were you good academically?
no.
Or did you enjoy it? That's okay.
I unfortunately, I thought we went to school to play basketball, and I said, I think back now, if I would have spent as much time studying as I did dribbling a basketball, I might have been another Einstein. Well, that might be exaggerating a little bit, but
so my dad, Mike Brown, which you know, he's always taught me about being early is being on time, putting in an honest day's work, and, you know, being committed to what you do. My stepdad, Wes, has always taught me about patience, fairness, and doing your homework before making a big decision. You had a special relationship with Wes when you were younger. Could you share a little bit about that?
yeah, Wes was, of course, he was from Peebles, and I was Locust Grove, so I never knew Wes Nichols until we consolidated. And like I said, it was one of those things that the kids, we got along great. And Wes was one of my first friends here in Peebles. And then, of course, Wes liked basketball as much as I did. And so, you know, we played on reserve, well, all 3 years here in Peebles. Wes was also a good baseball player, which, I wouldn't say I wasn't good, but anyway, but Wes was very good. And, if Wes' wife wasn't sitting here, your mom, no, Wes and I, we had a lot of good times together in high school. I had a really good, back then, you know, we did a lot of things. I mean, we were ornery, but never hurt anybody. But we had a lot of fun. And talking about music, that's now in high school. Yeah, we had a band when I was in high school, and Steve Ryan. Actually, there was two, and we had a lot of dances every Saturday night. And we'd kind of back and forth, the bands played, and we really had a lot of, good times back when I was in high school. A lot different than kids today.
Yeah,
so.
I think the kids are really scared of having a dance now. They just kind of sit on the bleachers and talk, I think is what it is now. But yeah, back in the day, live music, and you didn't have a cell phone in your hand to distract you. So
yeah, no, it was live music, and oh my gosh, I mean, everybody danced. I mean, I couldn't dance, but could make a motion, and so and then we all loved to slow dance. That was.
So can you share with us a little bit about your wife and In your bio, it was revealed that you were married within 2 years of dating, and can you just share with us?
Yeah, I was working at a funeral home there in Hillsboro, and my wife had just graduated from law school, and so she had taken the bar, and she was helping an attorney in Hillsboro, but she was actually planning on moving after she found out, she passed the bar. And we had a mutual friend that she up and one day asked me, said, Steve, said, I know a young lady here in town right now, said, just graduated from law school, said, would you like to meet her? And I said, sure, I'd like to. So she said, well, let's have lunch someday. I said, all right. So it was election day, 1980. We went to lunch, and she says now that, well, it was probably a week later, I called her on a Thursday and asked her if she wanted to go out the next night, and she said no, she was busy, which she later tells me she wasn't, and she couldn't believe I waited a week to call her, and I told her, I said at the time, I didn't have any money. I couldn't take her. I took her to lunch, and I spent all my money, so I had to wait till next payday. And so she said, but I'm free Saturday night. And I said, all right. So we went out Saturday night, and then after that, it was like, we just, and I don't know. I think we were both at the age that, I was 27 at the time, and she was 25, and I think we knew we were ready to settle down, and so yeah, that was November. Actually, we was engaged like in March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we was married like about 8 months, and poor thing, we met on a blind date, and she's been blind ever since.
So last year, or maybe the prior year, at the Adams County Medical Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We had just had a brief discussion. I was a fairly new owner and was kind of peppering you with a few questions. And you shared with me that you and your wife made a commitment when you were younger to handle your finances in a certain way and to work together for future goals. Could you expand on that a little bit? And
yeah. That's something, I was raised, I never ever really thought about money, but my wife was smart enough that, she realized that we had to be prudent, and to be honest, we, when we got married, she had just got out of law school. I had, worked at different funeral homes, and I guess I always wanted to own my own business. That was my whole goal. I always wanted to be in business for myself, and I guess once that Sue and I met, it just kind of seemed like everything fell in place for us. Mm-hmm. Soon as we announced our engagement, Mr. Miller in Hillsboro had a funeral home, and he called me up, and he said, how would you like to buy my funeral home? And I said, what? And he said, well, come down and talk to me. I was working at another funeral home there at the time, and so I told Mr. Etched I was working for that I was going to go down and talk to Mr. Miller. And so he offered me the opportunity to, he wanted to incorporate, and he was getting ready where he could draw his Social Security. So we come up with a 5-year agreement that he was going to work 5 more years. I had the opportunity to buy 49% of the business, but my wife and I, we just made a commitment, and so we basically, our first 10 years that we lived off what I made, and we saved everything she did. And at the time, we used Paul Scott. He was an accountant in West Union. And I'll never forget the first year we sat down with him to do our taxes. He said, now you're going to start, you're going to get IRA. And I looked at him, I said, Paul, I said, I'm so far in debt. No way that I'm going to get an IRA. And he said, yes, you are. He said, it's a tax break for you. And he said, you got to start thinking about retirement now. And I said, I'm only 27. He said, that's the point. He said, you start now. And so Sue and I both, we started our retirements when we were so far in debt that I never ever even dreamed that I'd ever get out of debt. And we've done that continuous. And I would just encourage any young couple. Retirement is on you before you know it. And don't wait till you're 30 don't wait till you're 40 or 50. Mm-hmm. Start when you're young. And if you work for a company that, if they have a retirement plan for you, I mean, that's free, and especially if they'll match whatever you put in. I mean, that's free money for mm-hmm. you. And, but yeah, we've been, and I've been very fortunate. Sue, when we got married, Sue told me, said, now, here's the deal. She said, I'll stay home and I'll clean house and I'll cook for you when you get home. But she said, I'm not going to work. Or she said, I'll work, but I'm not going to clean house. And so I said, well, I think that the best thing you can do is you work and I'll hire a housekeeper. Mm-hmm. So that's what we've done. So, and my wife, oh my goodness, she's a workaholic. She just, that's all. I think I work hard, but she's 7 days a week. She's just really a hard worker. So, and we've been very fortunate. It's just, we've just had we've had a great life. We both, and we've been fortunate because we've had both same interest. We were both raised Methodist, so that we had same, religious ideas, and so it just we were kind of made for each other, I guess. Very fortunate.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We mentioned before when you got here that I have a small daughter. Can you talk about your children and what it's like raising them around here? Well,
like I said, I've got a great wife, and she's been very influential with our kids, and been a great mother. Many times that with my business, I would have to leave, but Sue was always there for everything, and. One thing, and we with the horses, we traveled a lot with our kids, and we spent a lot of time with them. And one thing, when we traveled, we had any time, we'd always go to bookstores. Mm-hmm. And one thing my wife would, if our kids wanted a book, she never denied them. We always bought them books, and our kids. From a young age, they started reading. And that's one thing, if a kid can read, they can learn. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing. And we always kept our kids active. And I think that as long as you keep kids active and involved, and our kids was always involved in school and different activities, and just watch... just keep an eye on them, and your kids will be great kids. It's not rocket science. You just got to be good parents. You just got to pay attention to your kids and take an interest as long as you do that, you're going to have good kids. And we've been fortunate. Our oldest daughter, she's got her master's degree from Xavier, and she's in community counseling, and so she does very well. We have to laugh. If you ever been around her, she never stops talking. And I don't know where she gets that from, but anyway. So we told her, I said, we thought being a counselor, you had to listen. And we always tease her, it's Allie's world, because anytime you're around her, it's all about Allie. And then you mention something about what you're doing, and all of a sudden she's done. And then our youngest daughter, she loves to travel, and she's traveled all over. Other than the Mideast, she's traveled all over the world, and she's graduated from law school. So yeah, we're real proud of them, and yeah.
Yes. Did you stress any life lessons to your kids when they were growing up, or?
No, I just always stressed to my girls that they had to get an education and get self-independent. I said, I don't want you to ever get to the point where you think you got to depend on a man. And that's one thing. I guess I've always respected my wife so much because my wife didn't need me. I mean, she was in a position that, she didn't need me. I was kind of, so I just always felt that I was blessed. And that's just kind of how I always wanted my girls is that, hey, you have self-value and get in, keep yourself where, you're independent. And so I always tried to make them, and they are, and to this day, they're very independent. So.
Good.
So you've mentioned a little bit about horses, and maybe we've already covered it, but I just had a note here to discuss hobbies. Lifelong passions.
Yeah, really, other than work, Chris, really that is probably horses. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the National Snaffle Bit Association, that's a horse organization. And I was fortunate. I was asked to serve on the board of directors, and I did. And I ended up, ended up being on the executive committee and ended up being the president of the association. And so that's kind of always been really, horses has been my passion. Like I said, I'm a wannabe cowboy. I just really enjoyed the horses. Now our kids and my wife, I showed some, but that wasn't really, that just wasn't really, wasn't important to me to show. Mm-hmm. But my wife and girls, they enjoyed it. So that's what I enjoyed, more so. And I like far as the breeding aspect. That's what Sue and I really enjoy now. We enjoy breeding, raising, and watching the babies go on with a show career. And last year we had a 2-year-old that won the Quarter Horse Congress in Columbus. Oh, wow. So yeah, and that's always exciting to sit there and know you bred and raised that one, and then it goes out and wins, and so that's given us a lot of enjoyment. Yeah, we've been very fortunate. We've bred and raised. We had one horse that we bred and raised. She won the Quarter Horse Congress as a 2-year-old. They had a class at the Congress. They could never be shown before. And we ended up, it was a slot class, so we paid so much money to enter the horse, and there was 40 slots. And so anyway, we ended up, we won that class. You showed to 4 judges. We was first under all 4 judges. We took then, that was in October. In November, we took her to the World Show, American Quarter Horse World Show in Oklahoma City, and she went 3 goes to 4 judges again. In all 3 goes at the World Show, she was first under every judge. So she was never beat as a 2-year-old. And so that's really exciting to when you breed and raise a horse like that. And then we kept her, and then I've kept really all the mares that she had. I've kept them as breeding stock. So yeah, so it's been a lot of fun.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So our goal is to have guests bring in a special memento of their life or from their life. And do you have something to share also?
Yes. My grandfather Thompson, he had 5 brothers, and during World War I, 3 of his brothers were in the war at the same time. One of his brothers was killed in action on the day before Armistice in Belgium, and he was, and I brought with me tonight, he was carrying 2 books. And as you can see, there's a bullet hole right through the center of, and one, this book here is St. John. It's Army and Navy edition, and it's on the book of St. John in the Bible. And then this, of course, is a small miniature Bible that he was carrying, and when he was shot, that bullet went through both those books, or Bible. Well, actually, one's the Bible and one's the book of John. And so, anyway, that was in it was November the 10th, 1918. And my Uncle Bill Thompson, he worked for the High Historical Society, and he managed Certain Mound State Park for several years. And Bill was more like a dad to me than an uncle. And I said I was very blessed growing up that I had my mom's brother and my dad's brother that was real close to me, and they treated me more like a son and than a nephew. And so my Uncle Bill, of course, this was passed down from his mom and dad to him, and then Bill worked for me 2 different times after he retired from the Historical Society. He lived in Hillsboro and helped me at the Hillsboro location, but his wife always wanted to move to Florida. So he come to me one day and he said, Steve, he said, Scrubby and I said, we're going to move to Florida. So that's always been her dream. And I said, well, I understand. So they moved to Florida, and they was down there for several years. And I had bought the funeral home in Sinking Spring. And Bill called me one day, and he said, hey, anybody living at Sinking Spring Funeral Home now? And I said, no. I said, it's vacant. And he said, would you like to have a tenant and some help? And I said, sure. So Bill and Scrubby moved back to Sinking Spring, and they lived in the funeral home there. And the whole time they was there, Bill, and I still have them, of course. Bill gave me, but I have pictures of my 3 uncles that served in World War I. I have pictures of them in their military uniforms.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they was displayed in our arrangement office there in Sinking Springs. So then they retired a second time, and when Bill got ready to leave, he asked me, he said, Steve, he said, would you like the pictures of your great uncles? And that really meant a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I still, of course, I still have them. And I should have brought Uncle Roy's. I never thought till I was coming down, why didn't I bring the picture of Uncle Roy with me? But I still have that. And then the last time I visited Bill when, he was in Florida, and he had been diagnosed with cancer, so I went down and to visit him. And when I was there, I got ready to leave, and he said, "Steve," he said, "I got something I want to give you." And it was my Uncle Roy's case, listen to me. It was his trunk that the military had sent all of his personal belongings back. And so Bill gave me the trunk, and so I still have of course, I have it and will always cherish it. But then there was just some letters here as well from the military. This is a postcard that my Uncle Roy sent to my grandfather. And this postcard he sent in, he wrote it on August the 29th, 1918. Wow. And it says, "To his dear brother." And he goes on to explain he was in a foxhole, and he was writing a letter, and the weather was nice at the time, and he was looking forward to receiving another letter from the family. And then I've got another letter from sorry about this.
You're fine.
But here is this is actually a Western and Union telegram. And it was sent to my, at the time, I guess it would have been my great-great-grandfather, I believe.
What year was that, Steve?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell the year on that?
This was sent to them in 1918.
1918.
Notifying them that their son was killed in action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Said to Mr. John R. Thompson, of Sinking Spring, Ohio, deeply regret to inform you that Private Andrew R. Thompson is officially reported as killed in action November the 10th, Harry the Adjutant General. And so anyway, but so he was, this telegram was dated December the 4th, 1918, and he was actually killed on November the 10th. So it took almost a month before, of course, back in those times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can understand. So, and so Uncle Roy is buried at Locust Grove Cemetery.
Okay.
And so we've my daughter and I, my mother was always big in decorating Memorial Day. And then my daughter, last few years before my mom passed away, she would take my mom on Memorial Day and take her around. Mom had quite a circuit. And so when Mom passed away, my daughter said, Dad said, "I think this is something that really meant a lot to Mom and Grandma, and we need to keep doing this." Mm-hmm. So we have, and so we always make point now, too, because my Uncle Bill's passed, that we always make sure that we decorate Uncle Roy's grave as well. Always put something patriotic. But anyway, he's buried right at Locust Grove in the main gate off of 41. If you go in and start up the hill, he's just over to the the right, and they got a really nice. My grandparents got a really nice stone. It has to be a Rock of Ages.
Yeah. They'll love to hear that on this video.
Yeah, no, it has to be a Rock of Ages because it is really a nice stone, and it's just upheld. I mean, it's probably it's over 100 years old, and it just looks really, really nice. So, and then now Uncle Bill has always told me that here at Peebles, of course, we got the Thompson Wallingford American Legion post. And my understanding is that that the post, my Uncle Roy, he was the last one in this area that was killed during World War II. And then there was, and I got this from the Defender, it was Gerald Eugene Wallingford, and I'm sure that's probably Charlie. We always called him Hoss, and Hardy's. I'm sure it's probably some of their relatives. That he was the first during World War II that was killed in this area, and so they named the American Legion post here the Thompson Wallingford. So that's what I've always been told. Hopefully, if that's not true, I'd appreciate somebody telling me. So, but that's one thing. That's, I guess the older you get, I guess that's something that you have a family member that gives up their life for our freedom. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're privileged to be here. Absolutely.
Really.
Because of gentlemen like him. So thank you for sharing that, Steve. So, Steve, the funeral business and the monument business are very similar in which you're dealing with people in their most vulnerable times.
Yes.
How have you approached that over the years and, treating people with kindness and compassion and professionalism? What approach have you taken?
Well, I've always felt it an honor if someone called me. I always felt it was an honor that somebody'd lose a loved one, that they had enough confidence and trust in me to call me. And my philosophy's always been, when I'm taking care of that loved one, I treat them same as if it was my family. If that was one of my family members, how would I want them to treat my family member? And that's a philosophy that I've always taken. And I think it's worked well for me. And I said, the day I don't have compassion for a family, that's the day I'm going to retire. That's when I'm going to walk away. I've always felt like holidays. I've never, if somebody's had a death, I've never like, oh my God, this is going to ruin my holiday, or nothing like that. My family's always been very supportive as well because, I look at it that here a family's lost a loved one, and I'm fortunate enough they called me, and I can give up my time to help them. So I've just never, I guess people says, oh, I got today off because it's a holiday. Well, basically, and I'm sure kind of you're finding out too, a day is just another day to me, whether it's Christmas or Thanksgiving or Memorial Day or Labor Day. It's just another day. It's not a holiday. So, and if I have to work, I have to work. So I've never, and that's just kind of been my philosophy that in business that I'm just very appreciative of people. And I said, you don't want to see anyone pass away, but I guess that's part of life. And what's really, when it's really difficult is when it's someone that's younger. When we grow old, I mean, that's part of life. We're going to die, but unfortunately, there's times that some people are not that fortunate. And I said I've been very fortunate that both of my kids I never had to bury them. And I look back now that if I probably had, I don't think I would have probably been in this business today. But at the same time, I mean, I see families and you just don't understand how they can. I mean, I just can't imagine losing a child, no matter what your age.
Yeah.
So it can be very stressful at times, but at the same time, I look at it too. I'm in a profession that's part of my profession, so I have to stay strong for families.
Yeah. So what can families do from like a pre-planning standpoint for funerals or estate preparation, things like that?
Yeah, I really encourage any family to pre-plan. It makes it so much easier, not only for the family but for me as a funeral director, especially on the kids' part. They know that they are doing what mom and dad want. And I like it from the fact, too, pre-planning, it's something that you can sit down and, you can get what the cost is going to be. And, you can budget for it, or you can go ahead, if you're fortunate to have the money, I'd suggest just go ahead and pay it. But if not, we got different payment plans that you can make payments. And I like to, so many times when it's a sudden death or something, people can have a tendency to what I call emotional spending. And, but that's one thing. I guess I've been fortunate, too, that I know a lot of the families. And that's one thing I said, if family comes into me and I let them spend a bunch of money that I know they don't have, then I failed. I failed that family. And that's one thing I've always tried to pride myself in. I'm there to help families, but at the same time, I'm not there to put a financial burden on them.
Yeah.
And that's just, one of the things that I just really have always strived. So.
This is a little bit of a business question. So I feel like since I've been here, I've been able to develop a connection with customers, pursue the artistic side, this podcast, some fun things. But there's also challenges along the way as a new owner, especially for me, it's been the financial side, managing cash flow, making sure you're making payroll. Insurance comes up, all the unexpected things or expected things that come along with it. What were some of the challenges that you faced starting out?
Chris, I never really, I guess I was fortunate that, like I said, my wife worked, but I just never, ever felt that. I always just thought, I'm going to succeed. Mm-hmm. And I just never, ever give, and don't get me wrong, I know there's times, and I'm sure there was times. Fortunately, it's been long enough. I don't remember, but I know was times that it was, business can be. Any type of business. You got peaks and valleys, and hopefully, and like you said, especially today, it's cash flow. You know how that is. And boy, I guess when I first started into the business, we didn't have the challenges I think we have today. I look back when I started in 1981. The only board or anything that I had was our state board of embalmers and funeral directors in the state. We had no federal regulations whatsoever, and so we was governed by the state board of embalmers and funeral directors, and they would come around about every 6 months. And you just worry, wonder if they're going to pass or going to fail me. And now today, I've got 4 different federal agencies. And so our biggest is the Federal Trade Commission. And, we've got papers and, we've got our general price lists that we have to give families. And they've kind of, the problem with that is they've taken like compassion away, and all of a sudden it becomes business. And it just, and we're forced. I know when I first started, we never had a general price list. You come in, hey, this casket is so much, and a lot of times we just tell families, well, this is how much it is. Now I've got to have a statement of goods and services. You've got to sign a contract. And so it's the funeral business. It's so much business that we never had. We got EPA. And then we got OSHA. That's another OSHA. Oh my, if they walk in, the paperwork that we have to, the chemicals and it's just, there's so much regulation today that we never had when I started. And it was just so much simpler. Business was so much simpler. And then, and I'm sure you see it here today too, that you've got things that
not so
Don.
much on this side of the business, on the monument portion, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It does take you away from your mission.
It does.
And, when you're trying to service someone, you have to worry about those other factors. It takes away for sure.
And so that's the only thing that I've found as, and time now. And now technology, oh my, that's just, I used, when I first started, after I met with a family, I could sit down in 20 minutes, I could have all the paperwork done. Now, after I meet with a family, it takes me at least 2.5 hours by the time I sit down. You input everything. But we give a lot more service today than we did back then. Video tributes, and now we personalize the register book and the memorial folders, where back when I first started, I'd just grab a register book out of the box and put it out there and let everybody sign, and then put it back in the box and give it to a family. And so, it's just a lot more today that we do than now, that the services is far beyond. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for high school or college entrepreneurs?
Well, my profession right now is a good profession to get in because there's not a lot, and kids that are people that's going into it, and that's what find difficult now. Especially, I'm getting to the age, I've got a few more years, but, trying to find someone. So many kids, they think they got to be in the city where everything's at, and they don't realize this is a great life we live in. Out Adams County, Hyden County, it's a great area to raise kids. And at the same time, we're close to the city. So I think a lot of times they're missing out. But no, I think if you want to be successful, especially in business, and I know Chris can attest to this, business is not an 8 to 5 job. If you want to, you can make a living working 40 hours a week, but at the same time, if you want to be successful and if you really want to get ahead, and I would know what it was like to put in 40 hours. There's many days, but Wednesday I've got my 40 hours in. So, but you get you get out of just how much you want to put into it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any advice for new owners of businesses like Chris?
Be active. Be active in the community. I'm trying to get him on the Medical Foundation board. And but yeah, I think you've got to get back to the community, and I think it's good, like when you are in business, that you got to make connections. It's all about that connection and meeting people, and
can you talk to us a little bit about your previous role with the Highland County Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, that I was asked to serve as on the board, and I don't know how I always end up being on the executive committee, but that and I will have to say the chamber. If you're not a member of the Chamber of Commerce, boy, if you're a business, you really need to join the chamber. It's really, it's a good organization. I hope you are, Chris.
I have to give a shout out to Randy McFarland and Adams County Chamber. They're very active, and we see a lot of growth quarter to quarter, and they're always coming up with new events and things to help promote local business. So hi to Randy, and they're doing a great job there.
Well, good. I'm glad Highland County's got a great chamber too. It's been very, very good. Matter of fact, they have every quarter. They have where they go to a different business in the mornings. It's called Breakfast and Commerce, and this morning they had it at HICO. It's an organization there in Hillsboro, and it just gives you an opportunity to meet with other business people in the community, and then they do a lot. The chamber does a lot for the businesses and offer a lot of programs. And they would just one thing the Highland County has every year, and they have an agricultural day. And Jamie was saying this morning that it's going to be their biggest event they've ever put on. And right now they sold over 700 tickets. Wow. And it'll be at Southern State Community College. But the Chamber's it's a really great organization that, and I'm glad to hear, Chris, you're a member here. Yeah. So.
And we see a lot of new ventures in Peebles or Hillsboro and the surrounding area. And do you see that trend continuing? I
think so. Yeah, I think we've really got a great area here. We got a lot to offer any new businesses or anything that wants to come to this area. I think there's a lot of great opportunities here. I think it's very exciting times, I think. Yeah.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always want to be a doctor.
Really?
Yeah.
Any sort of specialty?
I think I think I'd like to be an ER doctor.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to share a story.
Okay.
Back when I first started a business here, of course, we didn't have life squads. So funeral homes, we did all the emergency work. And so I got to the point where, and I was working at West Union, and I got really where I was really good friends with all the nurses and the hospital staff and everything. And so I go into the emergency room one evening, and the nurses was there, and they said, "Oh, Steve," said, "Oh my gosh," said, "we got a drunk over there." And said, he won't leave until he sees a doctor. And so I said, "All right, I'll take care of it." And so I run over and I grab a lab coat, and I put a lab coat on. I put a stethoscope around my neck, and I grabbed his chart, and I walk in. I said, "Sir, what's the issue here?" "I want to see a doctor." I said, "Well, that's why I'm here." He looked at me. He said, "You're not a bit more of a doctor than I am." So I guess I don't guess I could fool him very well. So yeah, but no, that's something I guess now I look back, and of course there was no way I could ever got into med school, because like I said, I just didn't take high school or school serious, and that's one thing that and I mean, I really enjoyed school. But at the same time, really to be a doctor or something like that, I just was never committed enough at the time. Mm-hmm. Now I look back, I think, oh gosh, if I would have studied a little bit, I could have probably, but yeah. I didn't. So, but I've enjoyed what I've done. So
good. What profession would you not want to do?
I don't know. I think I could probably I think I could be content doing anything. Yeah, I don't think, it's just like traveling, I said I traveled, and of course it's always nice to come home, and I love it here. But every place I have ever traveled, I've always thought, I could live here. I could make a night. So I think that, I'd try anything.
Okay. And last one, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done, thy good and faithful servant.
I think that's all we have, Steve. So,
that's good.
Thank you very much for taking time with us this evening, and thank you for your continued support. And that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris, and I wish you much success. I think you're going to do great. It's really good to see young people like you that is stepping up in the business roles, and I know you're going to be very successful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Nope, I am good. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Lakota.
It was very nice to meet you.
You too, and gosh, I can't